What is DNS? The Domain Name System, DNS, is the phonebook of the Internet. Humans access information online through domain names, like NewYorkTimes.com or ESPN.com. Web browsers like Google Chrome locate websites through their IP addresses. DNS translates domain names to IP addresses so browsers can locate and load the website. Each device connected to the Internet has a unique IP address which other machines use to find the device. DNS servers eliminate the need for humans to memorize IP addresses such as 192.168.1.1 in IPv4, or more complex newer alphanumeric IP addresses such as in IPv6. What is DNS resolution? The process of DNS resolution involves converting a hostname, such as www.example.com, into a computer-friendly IP address, such as 192.168.1.1. An IP address is given to each device or web server on the Internet, and the Internet uses this IP address to locate the device, server or website like a street address is used to find a particular home. When a user wants to load a web page, a translation must occur between the website's host name like example.com and the IP address of that website before the browser can display the web page. There are 4 DNS servers involved in loading a web page. It means that before a web page has been loaded on a browser, the request for that website or web page sent from the browser must pass through either of the 4 DNS servers before the requested website is loaded on the browser. The 4 DNS servers are DNS Recursor, or Recursive DNS Resolver, Root Name Server, TLD Name Server, or the top-level Domain Name Server, and lastly Authoritative Name Server. How websites or web pages are been loaded on your browser. The basic process of a DNS resolution follows these steps. The user enters a web address or domain name into a browser. The browser sends a message, called a recursive DNS query, to the network to find out which IP or network address the domain corresponds to. The query goes to a recursive DNS server, which is also called a recursive resolver, and is usually managed by the Internet Service Provider, ISP. If the recursive resolver has the address, it will return the address to the user, and the web page will load. If the recursive DNS server does not have an answer, it will query a series of other servers in the following order: DNS root name servers, top-level domain, TLD, name servers and authoritative name servers. The 3 server types work together and continue redirecting until they retrieve a DNS record that contains the queried IP address. It sends this information to the recursive DNS server, and the web page the user is looking for loads. DNS root name servers and TLD servers primarily redirect queries and rarely provide the resolution themselves. The recursive server stores, or caches, the A record for the domain name, which contains the IP address. The next time it receives a request for that domain name, it can respond directly to the user instead of querying other servers. If the query reaches the authoritative server and it cannot find the information, it returns an error message. Caching is the process of storing copies of files in a cache, or temporary storage location, so that they can be accessed more quickly. Technically, a cache is any temporary storage location for copies of files or data, but the term is often used in reference to Internet technologies. The authoritative name server is the last stop in the name server query. If the authoritative name server has access to the requested record, it will return the IP address for the requested hostname back to the DNS recursor, the librarian, that made the initial request. What's the difference between an authoritative DNS server and a recursive DNS resolver? Both concepts refer to servers, groups of servers, that are integral to the DNS infrastructure, but each performs a different role and lives in different locations inside the pipeline of a DNS query. One way to think about the difference is the recursive resolver is at the beginning of the DNS query and the authoritative name server is at the end. In conclusion, the DNS, or the Domain Name System, is a system that makes it possible for browser clients like Google Chrome to be able to load web pages. It translates human-readable domain names, for example, www.amazon.com, to machine-readable IP addresses, for example, 192.0.2.44, which your browser client can understand, and be able to fetch and load web pages from the particular IP address. We have come to the end of this course. Bye for now, see you in the next class.